Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a video review for Berserk, the Egg of the Supreme King, which is an anime OVA that was just released a few months back, and it's going to be part of three-part OVA series on the Berserk anime and manga. I should say manga and there has been an anime done for Berserk before, but that was like over 10 years ago. It's pretty old at this point. Actually, how old is it? How long was it released? I think it was a long time ago. It was probably like 15 years ago, like early 90s, maybe, or maybe 20 years ago at this point. And if you go back and watch the anime, it's not bad or anything, but there's a couple things that, by today's standards, don't really make sense for the Berserk older anime. The first one is that the art style is like that old classic, sort of like, I don't even want to say anime, I want to say like cartoons, because there's a lot of like still scenes where you'll get, one still image with things moving and stuff like that, and it's pretty choppy in that way, which is sort of like something that they used to do a really long time ago in American cartoons. It was like 40, 50 years ago, like in the 60s and 70s, where they would show like still images here and there, and it just felt really cut up and sort of took you out of the experience. So I think it makes sense to go back, and take the story of Berserk and revisit it in an OVA format. So this one's the first one. The next one will be coming out next week. It'll be part 2 of the Berserk OVA trilogy. And if you haven't seen Berserk, basically what it is it's an anime manga and now OVA anime that essentially tells the story of a character named Guts, and what he basically is all about is he grows up as basically a mercenary with really no idea who his parents are. He's the protagonist of the story. It's set in a medieval sort of supernatural Dark Ages type time where you have, it's mostly, near the beginning and on through the manga and anime. At the beginning it starts out to be very down to earth, and there aren't too many supernatural elements in it. It's basically sword fighting. You have Berserk, who essentially, Guts, for some reason I always call him Berserk, but his name is Guts, but he gets a Berserker armor later on. He goes Berserk, so to speak, and that's his fighting style, so to speak. He just goes crazy. And he has this giant sword. It's a huge sword. It's about the length that a spear would be, except it's thick, and it's the length of a spear. So it's bigger than him. And essentially they explain it in the anime and the manga that he basically, from the time he was a kid, he was raised as a mercenary. So they had no small swords for him. So he had to train as a child with a man's sword, like a regular sized sword. So to him, it was huge, but after a little while, he just got used to using that. So when he got older, he was able to use, humongous sword. And I think that he was pretty much the first character from anime to use, one of those bigger swords. If he wasn't the first, then he was probably, one of them, because after him we had like Cloud from Final Fantasy, and I mean there's been lots of other characters in anime and in manga as well as video games that have used that oversized giant sword type thing. So it sounds like Berserk probably was one of the first ones. I don't know. I can't say for sure if that, if that was sort of, that concept was created by the writer, but, I know he was one of the first ones to sort of popularize that, huge sword thing that they use a lot nowadays. So yeah, so the supernatural elements don't come until later. In this one, this is just the first part of the 3, and maybe even more after that. I'm not sure if they're going to finish it just at the 3 OVA films, or if they're going to go on past that. But this being the first part, there isn't a lot of supernatural elements in it. There is, one character that they fight named Zod, who's basically a, they call him a Nosferatu, which means vampire, but I think that's actually a mistake because he's not really a vampire. He is closer to a minotaur that can also fly. So he's humongous. And he's got, the horn type things when he transforms. And also he can sprout wings and fly as well. So he's like a minotaur that can fly. Not really like a vampire, though. He doesn't suck blood or anything as far as we know. He just rips guys in half and, does all a bunch of cool stuff like that. Speaking of which, this anime, well, the OVA is not too bad, but there is a good amount of gore in it. People being ripped apart and, cut out by swords and stuff like that, and sword battles. Especially when Guts walks into the building or the part of the castle that Zod is in, because he's just he's just, you know, mangled like most of, you know, his comrades, so to speak, and they're just their body parts all over the place and just craziness. So, you know, there is a little bit. If you're kind of weary about that, you may not want to watch this. This is kind of a darker type of show, but it's not too dark in this OVA, but it gets really dark later on. And I mean, even in the anime, near the end of the anime, I was like, when I watched it, it's a cartoon and the animation is kind of bad, and it still kind of freaks me out. You know, like even though it's a cartoon and anime, like it's really, the ending is very traumatizing. So if you're soft-hearted, you won't like Berserk. You know, but it is definitely very cool to see. You know, sort of like one of those sword fighting anime where you get to see guys just get totally, you know, chopped in half and all kinds of stuff. This one covers, in terms of where the anime covered, the first 11 episodes in an hour and 10 minutes. So that's really condensing it. It's taking a story that's, you know, longer, condensing it. It takes out a lot of stuff. In the anime, they went with a strange direction, which is they put it out of chronological order, and they had basically part of the story that's later on, you know, at the beginning to get people's attention. It's called the Black Swordsman, the first episode. And then after that, they go to a time, you know, sort of like a time lapse. They skip back to a flashback sequence where it goes through, you know, like 15 or 20, or not 15, but like a few episodes or a few, in this, probably about 20 or 30 minutes of to actually, it'd be longer than that. You know, basically it's out of chronological order, and you know, and then it sort of reverts back in the anime. In this, the OVA, it just takes that part right out, and it starts when Guts is basically very young. The other main character in this is sort of like, in this, he's not really an antagonist. In this, Zod, I guess, would be the antagonist, as well as some of the people in the on the council, or so to speak, or part of the royal, you know, family, so to speak, of around the king and that kind of stuff. And near the end, we get to see some really cool scenes go down with Guts having to assassinate him. It sticks exactly close to the manga and anime, except I think that it leaves out a lot of stuff. It doesn't mention, you know, Guts' upbringing and what it was like to grow up as a mercenary, that kind of stuff. It doesn't mention, there's a lot of stuff that's been taken out of it to shrink it for time purposes. But this is probably, to people that have never seen Berserk, the best way to get into it. You can find it online if you just type in Berserk, the Egg of the Supreme King on Google. You can probably find it just to watch it online, or you can find it on torrent. I know they have it on ISO Hunt. And I definitely recommend it to anybody who has not seen Berserk yet and wants to sort of try to get into it. Again, it's a medieval type, really dark, gory anime. It's one of the most famous manga and anime ever, and it's been ongoing since the author started it. The manga is still ongoing, but it's not, you know, it doesn't have regular schedule. Like, it's not coming out every week or something. Sometimes it takes the author a while. Well, I shouldn't just call him an author, the creator, because he does the art, he draws it, and he does the writing for it. But it is a fantastic story. It's very interesting. It's a lot different from what you would see, you know, in a live-action series, something like that. I don't think they would really be able to do it because there's just so much killing, there's so much blood, there's so much all that kind of stuff that you just, you know, I'm not sure if they would do it in a live-action format. But the art in it is absolutely beautiful. They've really improved on the old animation that was, you know, done all those 15 years ago or whatever now, so that it really looks very beautiful. A lot of it's cel-shaded. And I don't know, some of it, like, I can't say the art is perfect. If I had to rate it, I'd give it like a 9 out of 10, because being that it's cel-shaded, it looks a little wonky sometimes, but the environments are beautiful. The sky and everything is very, very cool to see. I will put a link to the trailer in the description if you guys you know, haven't heard of Berserk and you want to go check out the trailer. Check it out. I definitely would recommend it. I think it's a really accessible way to get into the series. If you're into medieval stuff, if you like Game of Thrones, or you like, you know, some of these medieval sort of sword battling type stuff, you have to watch Berserk. It's absolutely awesome. As well as if you like darker stuff, you know, Berserk is definitely very, very dark. Griffith, another character who I should speak about, is also sort of in this. There's probably 4 main characters. You have Guts, who's the one I just told you about. He's the protagonist. The second one, who's probably most important, would be Griffith. He is basically another mercenary that he meets along the way, and he ends up joining Griffith's group, which is called the Band of the Hawk, and fights alongside him. And later on, Griffith's character development is very, very interesting to say the least. I think that even more interesting than Guts's development throughout the story in the manga, Griffith's is even more so. The only thing about him in this is that he looks a little too girly. It's kind of weird. It kind of throws me off sometimes. Like, he looks like his eyes and stuff are a little bit too much, a little too girly. In the other anime, to me, he didn't look that girly. So this one, he really looks very girly to me. Another character is, her name's Koska, and she's basically the woman of the group, but she's really tough as well. So she's in the mix as well. She's part of Griffith's group. He is the leader of his own group, so to speak. And then, of course, there is Zod, who also has a pretty big part in this. So, anyway, I'm going to give Berserk Egg of the King, Egg of the Supreme King, or OVA Part 1, a 9 out of 10. I thought it was very well done. The only thing is the art's a little sticky sometimes with the cell shading, but other than that, it's absolutely beautiful. It's the best way for anyone to break into Berserk that hasn't read the manga or seen the old anime, because I think by today's standards, it'd be pretty hard to get somebody into Berserk by having them, watch that older anime, because it's a little bit, I don't know, with all the still stuff and the art looking so cartoony and stuff. It's not bad, but this is definitely a much more accessible way to get into it. And manga, a lot of people just don't like to read manga, and I can't fault them for that. I understand. It's black and white, and it's just comic books and manga aren't for everybody. So this OVA, I think, is a great idea. I can't wait to see the second one that'll be out in a couple weeks. And, of course, the third one, and we'll see how far it'll go. The second one, I don't think will go all the way up until the end of where the anime went to in the storyline. But, I mean, we'll have to see. So that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you thought about the Berserk Egg of the Supreme King, if you've seen it, the OVA 1. Let me know what you think about Berserk in general, if you like Berserk, if you like the storyline, if you like how dark it is. And maybe I'll do a review for the manga later, which does a more overall review of the overall story instead of such a concentrated one. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. See you for the next one later. Peace.